It's that time again. We have a new Unearthed Arcana. This time it is Subclasses Part 2. And they're a little weird, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, but it does give me some ideas for what we're going to see in the next campaign book. So if you're curious, stay tuned. Hello friends, I'm Ted, and welcome back to Nerd Immersion. So we're going to go over this newest Unearthed Arcana. Also, ignore the 2 a.m. hair. My toddler kicked me in the head while I fell asleep in his bed last night, so it woke me up. So I said, hey, let's jump on the videos right now. So, we have a bunch of different options here. We have a new bard, a new cleric, and a new sorcerer. The bard and the sorcerer seem like they're heavily tied, at least in my mind, I feel like, to... Oh, the sorcerer specifically is Mechanus, right? The plane of order with the Modrons and all that. But the bard is the college of creation, so that kind of feels like it has a similar effect to me. And the cleric's a love cleric, so I don't know. Let's go ahead and take a look. They're all kind of funky, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about them. And I do feel like they're trying out a lot of different new mechanics. And you'll see what I mean when we dive into it. And I'm not sure if it's a good call. So the College of Creation Bard, which is never something that I really thought of as a bard of being a creator other than of like stories and tales. But that kind of forms itself into the Note of Potential ability at 3rd level. You can manipulate the Song of Creation to summon a floating musical note of possibility. Whenever you give a creature bardic inspiration, you can create a Note of Potential. The note orbits within 5 feet of the creature. It is a tiny object that is intangible and vulnerable and lasts until the creature rolls the bardic inspiration die. A creature with a note can use it in the following ways. So first of all, it says you can create a note of potential. I don't see why you wouldn't ever always do that. Considering it, when you give them a bardic inspiration, you can do this, and it doesn't seem to use, it doesn't use an additional bardic inspiration, it's just tacked on to the feeling or to the existing inspiration. So they could use it for the ways they normally use it, or use it for one of these 3 note abilities. So we have the Note of Destruction. Immediately after the creature rolls the bardic inspiration die to add it to an attack roll, the creature can expend the note to create a burst of sound. Each other creature within 5 feet of it must succeed on a con save equal to the bard's spell save DC, or take thunder damage equal to the number rolled on the bardic inspiration die. First of all, I love this. I think this is really great. I also think this outclasses things like Valor Bard, which have the opportunity to, when you make an attack roll, you can choose to add the bardic inspiration die to the damage roll. This is, you can still add it to the attack roll to get that function, but then you can still add the bardic inspiration die to the damage roll, but it also makes it an area of effect. So one, it is thunder damage. So that's pretty good because it's very rarely resisted. However, they don't take the damage if they succeed. So that's the trade-off. The Valor Bards is just a straight number to damage regardless. This could be damage to a whole bunch of people in 5 feet of your original attack. However, if they succeed, they take no damage. Note of Protection. Immediately after they use the die to add it to a saving throw, they can expend the note to gain temporary hit points equal to the number rolled on the bardic inspiration die, plus the bard's charisma modifier, provided they don't already have temporary hit points. Again, you're already in a saving throw scenario, so it may be bad for you. You're adding this to help boost you up, and then you're going to get free temp hit points. And the Note of Inspiration is the last one. When the creature rolls bardic inspiration die to add it to an ability check, they can expend the note to re-roll the bardic inspiration die and must use the second roll. So what I'm trying to figure out based on this is it lasts until the creature rolls the bardic inspiration die. So if you don't use this when you use the bardic inspiration die, the note doesn't do anything. So you would almost have to do it, and it just makes everything better if you do. So I don't see why you wouldn't. Next, we get Performance of Creation, which is really weird. This is a weird ability, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, because it's kind of... it's not obviously really combat accessible, but it has a lot of interesting, well, it eventually does, but it has a lot of interesting roleplay options here, right? As an action, you create one non-magical item of your choice in an unoccupied space within 10 feet of you. The item must appear on a surface or in a liquid that can support it. The GP value of the item can't be more than 10 times your bard level and must be no larger than a 10-foot cube. For items, for examples of items you can create, see the Armor, Weapons, Adventures, Gear, and Tools table in the Chapter 5 Equipment of the Player's Handbook. The created item disappears at the end of your turn unless you use your action to maintain it. Each time you use your action in this way, the item's duration is extended to the end of your next turn up to a maximum of 10 minutes. If you maintain the item for the full 10 minutes, it continues to exist for a number of hours equal to your bard level. And it sounds like once you do that, it maintains it for a number of hours equal to your bard level without you having to focus on it. It also doesn't say that it's your action to focus on it, but is not concentration. So from what I can tell, you could still cast a concentration spell while maintaining concentration on this. Once you create an item with this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest or until you expend a spell slot of 3rd level or higher to use this feature. You can only have one item created by this feature at a time. If you use an action and already have an item from this feature, the first one immediately vanishes. So this is that kind of new mechanic I was talking about. They seem to have introduced this concept of the ability works once per long rest, or if you expend a spell slot of a given level, it activates. And we see things similar to this in the other subclasses as well. So, I mean, like I said, the Performance of Creation ability has literally limitless uses, especially because the item disappears. Like, you want to talk about a crazy whodunit scenario? You create the literal smoking gun, the knife, the sword that kills the enemy, and then stop focusing on it, and then it disappears from existence as if it was never there. So, there is definitely something to be said about using this for nefarious purposes, for murdering somebody or doing that kind of thing. You kill them with a weapon, and then the weapon literally blinks out of existence. There is zero evidence. So there's something like that. You're captured, and you need to get a lockpick set to get out of it. You can create it doesn't actually say you need to use an instrument or do anything specific to create it, even though it's called the Performance of Creation. So you could create a set of lockpicking tools and then pick your way out. You know what I mean? So the only thing I'm not sure about is if under adventuring gear, I'm pretty sure under adventuring gear rations exist. So I'm curious if you could use Performance of Creation to create rations, and then you eat the rations, and then you no longer maintain it. Are you still hungry? Or did you consume the food, and because you consumed it, it's gone? Or does that bamf out of your stomach, and then you no longer have food? I'm confused. All right, so fun fact, I went to D&D Beyond and looked this up. So not only are rations on the adventuring gear table, but also potions of healing. And potions of healing, what did it say? It was 10 times your bard level? 10 times your bard level. So when you have this feature at level 6, you could already create a potion of healing, which heals you for 2d4 plus 2 hit points. So you could create a healing potion, but then if you drink the healing potion, gain the hit points, and then the potion no longer exists, do you still maintain the hit points because you already got those? So that one, I think probably because, right, you drank the potion, the hit points were healed, and then the potion is gone, doesn't exist anymore. But the rations is more of a question that I have. You eat the rations, are you still hungry? The only reason this is anything is in one of my current campaigns, I'm stuck in a desert, and we were trying to find food and water, and it's very difficult. But if I could have created magic food that we could eat, and then it has no, like, it disappears, but it's still sustenance, I'd be curious. Again, I'm reading too much into this. Let's move on. And lastly, we have Animating Performance. Your mastery over the Song of Creation allows you to bring items to life. When you create a non-magical item using your Performance of Creation feature, the item I think we just talked about, you can instill life into it. The dancing item is under your control until the item vanishes or until it is reduced to 0 hit points. In combat, the animated item shares your initiative count, but it takes its turn immediately after yours. It can move and use its reaction on its own, but the only action it takes on its turn is the dodge action, unless you take a bonus action on your turn to command it to take one of the actions in its stat block, or the dash, disengage, help, hide, or search actions. Again, this is definitely how all pet type mechanics should be handled. I think this is way better. But get this, when you use your bardic inspiration to give bardic inspiration to somebody as a bonus action, you can command which action your animated item takes as part of the same bonus action. So typically one of the main things a bard has to use a bonus action for is to grant bardic inspiration. So I thought originally, well, now you're going to have to choose. Do you give bardic inspiration, or do you use your dancing items animated, from the animated performance to make it do something other than dodge? Well, now you can still give bardic inspiration and still command this, so this is even better than some other pet mechanics. So what does the dancing item do? 16 AC, regardless of what it is. Also, as a point, you could make dancing rations, and they have these stats if you want to think about that. It's kind of funky, right? Hit points equal to 5 times your class level, so we're doing a pretty good spot since we're 14 when we get this. 40-foot movement speed. Its stats are 18, 14, 16, 4, 10, 6. Proficiency in strength and con saves. Immunity to poison. Immunity to charm, exhausted, poison, frightened. Dark vision is 60 feet. It understands the languages that you speak. Immediately after the item takes a slam attack, it can take the dodge action as a bonus action. So if you give someone your bardic inspiration, then command this thing to make a slam attack, then it can use its own bonus action to still take the dodge action, making it even harder to hit. It's immune to any spell that would alter its form, and its slam attack is your spell attack modifier, so your charisma modifier plus your proficiency bonus. And its damage is 2d8 plus your charisma modifier in force damage. That is a pretty good thing. So you are using your bonus action to have this thing make an attack roll to do 2d8 plus your charisma modifier. It still gets to use its bonus action to dodge, and you could use that bonus action to command it to also grant bardic inspiration to somebody else. This last feature is very well thought out. It synergizes very well with the class, the base class, and even within the feature itself. And the fact that it's literally anything. And look at this. This could be a quiver of arrows. This could be a set of robes that's attacking people for 2d8 plus 5, or plus your charisma modifier in force damage. A lantern, a ink pen, a crowbar, a candle, a bucket, whatever you want it to be. I mean, it also could be weapon and armor, but I'm just picking these because they're funnier. You get my point. So the cleric is the love domain cleric, right? Valentine's Day is right around the corner. This makes sense. Unlike what they have done in the previous one where they sort of list a couple deities, they actually give you the breakdown by pantheon of all the different gods of love, right? A lot of these I'm sure you'll recognize, right? Like Aphrodite for Greek and Balder for Norse, but then they actually give you ones for D&D based stuff, right? So we have Eberron gods, we have Greyhawk gods, Dwarvish gods, Forgotten Realm gods, Gnomish gods, all this kind of stuff. Very cool. So what domain spells do we get as a love cleric? Charm, Person, Heroism, Enthrall, Warding Bond, Beacon of Hope, Hypnotic Pattern, Aura of Purity, Confusion, Greater Restoration, and Hold Monster. I'm a little confused as to why Confusion and Hold Monster are on the love domain spells, but, it is what it is. So, right at the gate, I dislike it because you don't get 2 features. More or less, as I've discussed in my Fixing the Trickster cleric video, pretty much every cleric gets at least 2 features at level 1. It's usually maybe a proficiency in a gaming set, or proficiency in armor, or maybe this should be proficiency, bonus proficiency, and give you proficiency in persuasion, maybe, or deception, or your choice of both. I think could be good. But we get Emboldening Bond. And this is a powerful feature, so that may be why they chose not to do it. But I think just keep the themes up rather than, changing stuff. But anyway. You can forge an empowering bond between allies. As an action, choose 2 willing creatures you can see within 30 feet of you. This can include yourself, and create a magical bond between them. While either bonded creature is within 30 feet, the creature can roll a d4 and add the number to an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw. So this is basically these 2 people, while they can see each other, get the benefit of guidance and bless all the time. Each creature can add the d4 no more than once per turn. This bond lasts for 1 hour or until you use this feature again. So typically, you can use guidance to add a d4 to an ability check, or bless to add a d4 to an attack roll or saving throw. This is guidance and bless combined to 2 people without actually having to cast a spell that lasts for 1 hour, and they can use it once a turn as long as they're within 30 feet of each other. So that's exceptionally powerful. That's the equivalency of 2 spells on 2 people for 10 times the duration, I think. Yeah, maybe even more than that. 60 times the duration. I think it's only a minute for Bless. You can use this feature once and regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. You can also expend a spell slot to use this feature again. So this is any spell slot. Now, you do have to expend the spell slot to use the feature, so it's not like you can just use the spell and then get the feature back, but this could be a first level spell slot that you just blow to get this ability back. And you get this at first level, so you could reuse it multiple times per long rest. And again, if potentially one of those options you were going to use your first level spell for was to cast a Bless on 3 people, maybe you don't cast Bless, burn this spell, get this ability back, cast Bless on 2 people, and make it last for an hour, plus the added benefit of guidance. Alright. Channel Divinity, Impulsive Infatuation. You use your Channel Divinity as an action, present your holy symbol, choose one creature you can see within 30 feet of you. That creature must make a wisdom saving throw, and they can choose to fail it if they wish. On a success, they're unaffected. On a failure, the creature is charmed by you until the start of your next turn, and it must immediately use its reaction to make a weapon attack against a target you designate. If there are no valid targets, it uses its reaction to admire you. So, a good ability because it has 2 purposes. One, so if you use this on an enemy, they are charmed by you until the start of their next turn. It specifically says charmed, so if a creature has advantage on charm effects, that applies here. But it must immediately use its reaction to make a weapon attack against a target you designate. Obviously, if there's someone with a ranged weapon attack, or they're engaged with your allies and have their own allies nearby, and it's an enemy, you can choose to use this to potentially have the enemy attack one of their allies and help the party. If there's no enemies around, you could choose to have them use their reaction to admire you, potentially allowing your allies to move past them without provoking attacks of opportunity. Alternatively, you could use this on an ally so that your ally could get a reaction-based attack on an enemy of your choice. This is a way to get around the whole sneak attack thing. This could be a way that you could give a rogue sneak attack without having to provoke an attack of opportunity, because you could use it. The rogue chooses to fail. You say, I want you to use your reaction to attack that person. The rogue is doing it at range with a weapon. They get sneak attack potentially again. Good option. Has a lot of utility. It's Channel Divinity. Channel Divinities come back on a short rest, so that works out pretty well. Protective Bond at 6th level. The bond you forge between people shields you from harm when either creature chosen from your Emboldening bond feature, that's the level 1 feature, is within 30 feet of each other, which is how the effect works. The creature can use its reaction to grant resistance to all damage to the other creature when the other creature takes damage. So, me and you are bonded. You are going to take damage. I use my reaction to give you resistance to all damage. This resistance lasts until the end of the current turn. That's always on. We can always use that back and forth. We can both always use our reaction in that scenario to give each other resistance to all damage. Very cool. Potent spellcasting at level 8. You add your wisdom modifier to the damage you deal with any cleric cantrip. And lastly, Enduring Unity at 17th level. Creatures affected by your Emboldening bond feature gain its benefits, as well as the benefits of your Protective bond feature, so the level 1 and level 6 ability, while they are on the same plane of existence as each other. So originally it was 30 feet, now it's anywhere on the same plane of existence. Additionally, when a creature chosen for your Emboldening bond feature is reduced to 0 hit points, their bonded partner gains the following benefits for 1 minute, or until the creature regains 1 hit point. So again, same scenario, you and I go unconscious to 0 hit points, you get the following benefits. Advantage on attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. The creature, you have resistance to all damage, and As an action, you can touch me and expend any number of your own hit dice, and I regain a number of hit points equal to the total rolled. Very cool, very powerful ability. I do like that last ability for the healing, but I think it also, like, part of it is like you're on the same plane of existence. This thing works, but I need to be next to you to heal you. I guess that kind of makes sense, but either way, like I said, it feels like it doesn't get as many abilities as some other clerics do, where they get something at level. They get like 2 things at level 1, like a bonus proficiency and an ability. Again, part of that may be because all of these features stack so well within each other, and they're very powerful and have a lot of utility. Again, I also like the idea in this particular instance of the spending a spell slot to get the ability back, rather than something like you can use this ability a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier per long rest before you have to, long rest to get them back. So this could potentially be significantly more than that, but you are spending a resource to gain access to it. But the ability is exceptionally powerful, and it only becomes more relevant and more powerful the longer you play the game, and then later in the game it's even more powerful at level 17. So maybe that's why they're giving you the trade-off of spell slot to get more uses. But if you don't need, like, if it's something that's wisdom modifier times per long rest, and you only ever needed to use 1 during the day, well, then you had 4 other uses if you have a 20 wisdom that go unused. This, you can use it once for free, and you can spend the spell slots to get it back if you need it. If you need it more than what would be your wisdom modifier times per day, you have the option to do that if you have the slots remaining. Lastly, Sorcerer, Clockwork Soul. Something happened in your past. Somebody had a tie to Mechanist and Modrons and Primus, and now you have sort of weird, spooky sorcerer powers. I always like these kind of quirks they add. So this is how your manifestation of Mechanist is applied to you. This is the manifestations of Mechanist table create a way your connection to the plane manifests while you're casting a spell. Some of these are really cool, right? The ringing of clocks can be heard by you and those affected by your magic. Large spectral cogwheels appear hovering behind you, and so on. So I read through this first feature, Restore Balance, like 15 times, and I think I finally have it. Your connection to the plane of absolute order allows you to equalize chaotic moments. When a creature you can see within 60 feet of you is about to make an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw with advantage or disadvantage, you use your reaction to grant the creature both advantage and disadvantage. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier and regain all uses when you finish a long rest. So then they put this gray bar in here, rule tip, advantage and disadvantage. Even if more than one factor gives you advantage or disadvantage on a roll, you have it only once, and if you have advantage and disadvantage on the same roll, they cancel each other out. So, since this feature is Restore Balance, if I have advantage on an attack roll, let's say I have disadvantage on an attack roll, and you use Restore Balance on me, you gave me both advantage and disadvantage on that attack roll. Now note that it states there, even if more than one factor gives you advantage or disadvantage on a roll, you can have it only once. So you can't stack advantage, if I'm understanding that correctly. So I have disadvantage on an attack roll. You give me advantage and disadvantage. It cancels out and I have a straight roll. I think the way I've always been playing it in my home game is that one advantage and one disadvantage cancel out. Therefore, I still have advantage on the roll. I think a lot of people play it that way. But if I'm reading that rule tips correctly, I think I am mistaken. And even though I had advantage from one source and advantage from another source, I only ever have advantage one time. And then I had disadvantage. But advantage and disadvantage do cancel out. So it restored balance in that I have a straight roll. Same thing with if an enemy has advantage on a roll, I can grant them advantage and disadvantage, therefore giving them a straight roll. I think that's how that works. So Bulwark of Law at 6th level. As an action, expend 1 to 5 sorcery points to create a magical ward around yourself or a creature you can see within 30 feet. It lasts until you finish a long rest or use this feature again. It represents a number. The ward is represented by a number of d6 equal to the number of sorcery points you spent. So minimum of 1, maximum of 5, so 1d6 or 5d6, or in between. When the warded creature takes damage, it can use its reaction to spend a number of those dice, 1d6 to 5d6, roll them, and reduce the damage taken by the total dice spent. So that's good. Remember, this is an awesome thing because it's giving you options for your sorcery points, giving you other ways you can use it, and that's just a good thing. So let's see what else. Trance of Order at 14th level. For the next minute, it used this ability as an action to enter a state of Clockwork Consciousness. For the next minute, attack rolls against you can't benefit from advantage, and whenever you make an attack roll, an ability check, or saving throw, you can treat a d20 roll of 9 or lower as 10, which is pretty sweet. Once you use this action, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, or until you expend 5 sorcery points to use it again. Again, rather than in this case you use spending spell slots, they're letting you spend sorcery points instead. Which you could convert spell slots back into sorcery points. So I guess in theory you could spend spell slots to do this as well. And lastly, Clockwork Cavalcade at 18th level. As an action, you summon the spirits in a 30-foot cube, spirits of order in front of you. Spirits look like modrons or other constructs of your choice. The spirits are intangible and invulnerable, work fast and efficiently, and create the following effects within the cube before vanishing. Each living creature that has 0 hit points becomes stable. Any damaged objects entirely in the cube are repaired, and every spell of 5th level or lower ends on creatures and objects in the cube. Once you use this action, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, or until you spend 5 sorcery points to use it again. So I like this ability in theory, but as your capstone 18th level ability as a sorcerer, this one seems kind of bland. So it's a 30-foot cube, which is no small area, mind you. That's 30 feet in a cubic area, right? So anyone in that area with 0 hit points becomes stable. That's great. It gives you sort of some healing in a way, I guess, as a sorcerer, if you want to think about it that way. I would much rather have... It's also each living creature, so it doesn't designate between enemies and allies. That's the whole balance thing. Might be better if it was every living creature within 30 feet that has 0 hit points gains 1 hit point. But if the stability is supposed to be balanced, I get it. Any damaged objects entirely in the cube are repaired. This could be fundamentally crazy, right? Like, if you are in a castle siege and the front gate or the portcullis is broken and you use this ability, it is now repaired. So then you're back to, having to break it down again. And, depending on the size, if it fits in a 30-foot cube, you can repair it instantly, which is amazing. And then every spell of 5th level or lower ends on creatures and objects in the cube. Again, it ends beneficial spells for your party, but detrimental spells as well. Balance, right? That's part of it. I just feel like it needs a 4th bullet, and I'm not sure what that is. But it's definitely missing something. It seems like not enough for a 18th level ability. Also interesting that the 14th level ability, which is fundamentally better in every way in my opinion, which lasts for a minute and does many useful things for you, costs 5 sorcery points. And this 18th level ability also costs 5 sorcery points, but does much less useful things in the grand scheme. So, I don't know. That's my thoughts on this. I like the Bard. I think it's funky and weird, but I like the different abilities that it gets. Especially like the dancing thing. And I am still curious. I'm going to have to reach out to Wizards to see if I can get an answer on the rations question. The Love Cleric is good. I didn't expect to actually see one. But I like it, and I like that its abilities synergize so well with itself. And it's actually very powerful. Because remember, with all of these, right, you're getting all these abilities plus the base stuff, and base cleric spellcasting is very good on top of all of this. This might also be the first time I'd ever play cleric and not take guidance, possibly. And the Clockwork Soul Sorcerer, I like it because I like Modrons and Mechanus and Primus and that whole scenario. And I think it's really good. I like the level 1 ability now that I understand it. I like the Bulwark of Law, which is some nice defensive capabilities that you can grant to yourself or an ally. It's not as good as an Abjuration Wizard by any means, but it's still good. And you can use it multiple times. Trance of Order is fantastic. No attack rolls can have advantage against you, and any attack roll, ability check, or saving throw you make that's under 9 or below is a 10. That's super solid and could be very useful. And you can use it multiple times with the expenditure of sorcery points. Like I said, 18th level ability needs maybe one other thing or a few tweaks. I'm curious to see what you guys think in the comments down below. So let me know what you think about this new Unearthed Arcana Subclasses Part 2. I imagine we're going to get a Subclasses Part 3 in the near future, since we're getting about 3 to 4 per given thing. So we'll probably get a Subclasses Part 3 and a Subclasses Part 4 as one final work to whatever we're going to get for our new class-based resources, our resource book. A lot of people were saying it's probably going to be a psionic book, because one of the things we got was all psionic classes. But then we got Subclasses Part 1, and now we got Subclasses Part 2. So maybe we are going to truly get like a Xanathar's 2, if you will. Probably not going to be the same name, but some book detailing a bunch of different class options for players. It could also be like a Planescape style book, right? We've got stuff from Mechanus. We had the psionics from like things from the Far Realm and all this stuff. So maybe it is a Planescape, maybe not a Planescape setting, but like a Planescape themed book that gives us all these new class options. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up if you like it, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, which a bunch of you really have recently, and I do appreciate it, please take this opportunity to do so if you like what I'm doing here. I hope you all enjoyed yourself, and I'll see you next time.